We now go to our second public input, and that's from Carissa Schneiders, and this relates to the Upper Waitemata Ecology Network and the waterways there. The subject she's discussing is the need for a blue-green spatial network plan for the Whanuapai Future Urban Zone. So welcome, Carissa. Welcome to the table, and if you can activate your microphone and take your 5 minutes, we've got your presentation. Yes, you are most welcome to take your mask off at the table. Thank you.
Talk? Yes. Okay. Thank you. Right. So I'm speaking on behalf of the Upper Waitemata Ecology Network, a network that works closely with the Auckland Council on pest, weed control and planting to restore the Upper Harbour. The Upper Harbour is quite a large area. Today I'm particularly talking about Whanuapai, and I put this map up here to show the area of Whanuapai that is under Future Urban Zone, which, as you can see, it's that yellow mustardy colour, and it's a significant area. Just recently, as you'd be aware, Plan Change 5 was withdrawn and reverted back to the Future Urban Zone, and it's over 300 hectares of land. And where was I going with that? And that was mainly because of Auckland Council inability to fund infrastructure and by open acquisition land. So this is part of the whole of why I'm here. So what I'm asking, and I haven't actually spoken at a planning committee, so I'm a little bit unsure about the protocols, but this is kind of, please let me know if I'm in the wrong. But I'd like to have an action to be endorsed, and Auckland Council to endorse a regenerative blue-green spatial network plan for the Whanuapai Future Urban Zone as a step towards necessary transformational change that Council has identified needs to happen to address climate resilience. And in the Auckland Water Strategy document, it says that a blue-green spatial network plan is a key lever to deliver the Auckland Water Strategy and other aspects around climate resilience. Right. I'm here to ask that Auckland Council does what they have committed to do in the Auckland Plan 2050, the Auckland Climate Plan, and in particular the Auckland Water Strategy and Implementation Plan 2022. The Auckland Water Strategy identifies the need for Council to fundamentally transform in order to respond to the growing threats to climate and to the mental well-being of communities. The 8 strategic shifts identified acknowledges the need for equity throughout Auckland and that everyone has the right to access fresh water. And it was really acknowledged in the Auckland Plan about the inequality across the region, and I really think West Auckland has had a really hard time in terms of its neglect, and this is another reason why I'm here. This means that West Auckland should not be forgotten. It is equally as important as other parts of Auckland. Not just for our community, but for the whole of Auckland. Water is connected, and I think I can do this. Is that right? Do I press? Oh, let's remove this. Is there where I can press a button? Where does one point to? Oh no, I've gone too far now. Okay, so as you can see, that's in Herald Island. Well, you might not know that, and that's after the significant rainfall that we had on the 9th of August this year. And it was a mud pool for days. Absolutely, the sedimentation was just horrific. And as we know, that's one of the key pollutants which impacts the whole of the Hauraki Gulf. So, the Upper Harbour is ranked the highest of the 7 receiving environments applicable to the city in terms of its ecological value, vulnerability of receiving environment to degradation, and sensitivity ranking. Yet, the Auckland Unitary Plan has identified the Wairohora Inlet, Brigham Creek, and the wider Upper Waitemata Harbour as marine degraded 1, the worst level possible. This mismatch needs to be addressed. According to the Water Strategy document, water needs to be the central principle in land planning and land management, part of the integrated land use and land management planning. We are not against intensification. But we firmly believe intensification and caring for our environment and well-being can work together. But what is clear is that we cannot continue on the path that we are on. And I'll just move on to that. So this is currently, I just took yesterday, zoomed around. This is what's happening in Plan Change 12, which is part of the Whanapai area. And what it's showing is that it was pretty hard to show, and I would have loved to have been a drone, but is that we need 30% urban forest for climate resilience and biodiversity. And there is no ability in any of this area for that to occur. On top of that, it is totally reliant on cars and trucks in this area. There is very little in terms of the ability to have cycleways or pathways or anything. So it's totally against everything you've just talked about in terms of transport and reducing emissions. Evidence has shown that water is fundamental and needs to be protected and enhanced. Plus, an urban Mahere forest is at least 30% needs to be incorporated into the plan. Without it, there is no sustainability or resilience. Whanapai, as it stands, is extremely low in forest due to the historic farm and horticultural use. And as part of the Northwest Wildling, it needs to play its part. And do you know about the Northwest Wildling? Yeah, okay. Auckland Council admitted they did not have the money for the necessary infrastructure and open space acquisition for this area when they withdrew Plan Change 5, which has now been reverted back to the future urban zone. So as I mentioned, the significant area for Whanapai is under future urban zone, and Whanapai is under threat. It is vulnerable to ad hoc private plan changes, which you're going to be discussing one today, and even worse, the COVID Fast Track Recovery Act, which I know there are two currently within the EPA, open to developers and independent of council until July 2023. As part of UN, we are asking for the transformational shift that has been identified by Auckland Council. A significant portion of land has yet to be developed, and that was back to that large yellow area. We ask that Auckland Councillors Chris Darby as the Planning Committee Chair, Councillor Josephine Bartley as the Deputy Chair, Richard Hill as Chair of the Environment and Climate Change Committee, and Deputy Chair Pippa Coombe and Co-Chair of the Hauraki Gulf Forum, which, you know, and also John Watson and Wayne Walker, who is our Albany councillors, to take this first simple step towards transformational change and endorse a blue-green spatial network plan for Whanapai future urban zone. And all we're asking is that this is a little bit prompted because this is actually part of your delivery, but it's looking like it's in 3 years' time rather than now. It is this land, if this land is intensified without this being integrated into the plan, then we can never get this opportunity again. Let's work together towards a future that has a chance of being a climate resilient and also beneficial for the mental, physical and emotional well-being of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Carissa. That's great. And look, we can't pass a motion in support of your blue-green spatial network plan at this committee at this time because we don't have a supporting report. But this presentation of yours today, and the staff have taken some notes from your oral as well, will go forward to our Plans and Places team for their consideration in the work that's underway. And there is quite a lot of active work in that area of the Northwest, so it'll be considered there. But we'll take some questions now. Members, are there questions of Carissa, please? Any questions?
Yeah,
Councillor Henderson. Councillor Henderson, please.
Oh, thank you, Chair. And just to acknowledge you for your advocacy in this issue, I think it's really great. And the Northwest Wildlink, of course, as we know, has a huge history behind it and really great work and advocacy. So thank you for that. I suppose my question's kind of a fundamental one. Do you feel that with a more ad hoc development approach from both local and central government, that there'll be risks to environmental protection as a result of that?
Oh, absolutely. Because what we need is if we could actually do an overlay for a blue-green spatial network plan in this area, it will mean that we can have community links and pathways, connections, waterways identified that are really important. Without that, it will mean that areas can be built over that are actually really important not to be built over if we have a master plan in place.
Well, thank you.
And ecological corridors also identified as really key.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. Councillor Watson, please, your question.
Thank you, Carissa. That was an excellent presentation. My question goes to that kind of scene that you depicted at Christmas Beach there on Herald Island, in respect of the the sediment runoff. Are you aware that that just a little bit along the road, in fact, in Hobsonville, Scott Point, there are controls whereby controls are put on the quantity of sediment leaving any given site, in addition to the existing process controls. So, the process controls as they stand, aren't working, particularly with increase in rain events, but there is these kind of adaptive management plans that control the sediment, the quantity of sediment. Do you have any views on that, Carissa, as a way to improving the water quality based on what is already occurring in a couple of instances, not very many, but in a couple of instances and successfully?
Well, I think every measure towards not putting sedimentation into the harbour is a good measure, but I think there's more that we can do, and I think the more we have in terms of these ecological corridors that are yet to be identified and have planting and riparian planting and stuff like that, the more we can actually protect our waterways. And the more knowledge that we have, the more we measure what's happening with our roads and what's being put into the waterways. It's quite, I've lived there now for, 10, 12 years, and it seems to be getting worse, not better.
I agree. Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Watson, and thanks, Carissa, for your presentation today. There is a lot of work that is underway, and there is a lot more work that will be set in train. We're awaiting, of course, the resource management reforms from government, and they will play their part in this area as well. We've got the Natural and Built Environment Bill live at the moment, or about to become live, and then the Strategic Planning Bill as well. And then there are a number of national policy statements that have already been released and that we're working on, like the freshwater management and the implementation plan for that.
It's all there.
There's a national policy statement that this committee has been asking for well over a year, 2 years, and that's the National Policy Statement on Highly Productive Land, and that might be released possibly today or the end of the week. We say, I think we said that several months ago, but we're waiting for that as well.
Happy to move the recommendation.
The work is, there's quite a lot of work happening and needs to happen. So your advocacy is extremely positive and contributing to allowing us to crack on with that work, and that'll be a key focus of the next council. So I think I can hear the voice of Councillor Watson wanting to move the motion of acknowledgement. Do I have a second, please? And Councillor Cooper, thank you. Thank you, Carissa. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, no.
Aye.
Aye.
And declare that carried.
I turn this off, or?
Thank you, Carissa. And that concludes our public input.